and welcome to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. This episode is going to be a little bit different, but hey, that's manufacturing, right? So recently in a pre-recorded conversation, I spoke with Kathy Walker, who is the CEO and founder of eKentucky Advanced Manufacturing Institute, or eKAMI. A little background about Kathy before we switch over to the pre-recorded conversation. During her quest to identify potential opportunities to replace all of the jobs that were being lost in the mining sector in Eastern Kentucky, she was on a mission to discover ways to recreate jobs for the existing talented workforce who were multi-skilled and spent most of their time in the coal mines. During this journey, she connected with the Gene Haas Foundation. And soon after that, the eKAMI Training Center was started to upskill and reskill the region's workforce for new careers in advanced manufacturing, more specifically CNC machining. In 2017, eKAMI had its first graduating class, and today continues to offer courses that can earn participants a minimum of 8 national credits from the National Institute of Metalworking Skills, or NIMS. Some of the available courses include measurement, materials and safety, job planning, bench work and layout, CNC lathe operation, milling operation, and Mastercam mill design and tool paths. Recently, they started integrating more curriculum around robotics. So make sure you take a look at what they have to offer and connect with Kathy on LinkedIn if you have any questions. And now, please enjoy the pre-recorded conversation. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing, the video broadcast series that features the powerful women from the shop floor to the C-suite who are changing the world through engineering and manufacturing. Today, I have Kathy Walker from eKAMI. Welcome, Kathy. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Meaghan.
In terms of eKAMI as a whole, I know that you've mentioned some of the things that the sector might be missing, like there might be gaps and disconnections, and you really talked about how eKAMI is that middle ground between some of the academic stuff and some of the technical stuff. Can you dive into that a little bit more for our audience and really explain what unique benefit eKAMI provides to the sector as a whole in terms of getting people excited about modern day manufacturing?
Right. So, my perspective is we have two things going on. We have a skills gap, which we've been talking about that for probably the better part of 2 decades, but it's just been chatter talk. And then all the while, the labor shortage has grown. So, the intersection of those kind of creates a perfect storm, if you will. And in my view, the solutions lie in, technology and productivity. I mean, we have an aging population, and so we must discover ways to produce more with less people. Well, the technology is there. We have that. And people in the United States were innovative, were great inventors. So we have the technology at one end and the businesses in dire need of that technology. But what's missing, the missing link, is people, technicians, the boots on the ground people to deploy the technology. And sort of like, what you learn in business school, if you can't get your product to the market, you have a problem. So I believe that the technology is there and it's continuing to advance at a very rapid pace. What we lack are the people I call the bridge jobs, the technicians who can go in and collaborate with the employees on the manufacturing floor, in the warehouses at FedEx, wherever the case may be, and deploy this amazing technology that's coming down the pike. So that's where eKAMI is strictly focused. We are, it's targeted training in that arena.
Now, in terms of that training, how does that get set up through eKAMI? Are you working with apprenticeship programs as well too? Are you connecting with high school students while they're still in high school so they can do sort of like a job shadowing type program? Or is there any type of internships that, like, what does that process look like in terms of connecting the younger generations who are still in high school to the current manufacturers that exist in your area?
Right. Well, we are reaching out to the high schools. In fact, we had one student during COVID who actually graduated high school and graduated eKAMI at the same time.
Wow.
They were virtual classes at home, so he came to eKAMI, an excellent student, by the way, and it is off and running. So we are reaching out to the high schools to expose them to this, new era of manufacturing. And I think that is another challenge industry-wide. I can tell you that just about every high school student that visits eKAMI, they want to come here, and which is great. We have several valedictorians here. I also have students who have bachelor's degrees who are here. This is a non-traditional education, but people are beginning to realize it's where the action and the excitement is. We had one young man, a former student. In fact, he was here this week. He was a student here before we had the robotics training, and he is working for a company in Shelbyville, Kentucky, and doing very, very well. Wanted to come back and get robotics training, and then his company is sending him to UK engineering school at night. So
Wow.
he'll be working during the day, getting his engineering degree at night, and someone else is footing the bill. Plus, he's getting this job experience, which is golden. And it's a bit of a unconventional way. A lot of people are still stuck in that mode that as soon as you graduate high school, you need to go on to college, and that's great. But a lot of these kids, they don't even know why they're going. They don't know. So I myself think it's better to have a purpose, and so you're seeing a lot of that right now. So exposing the younger generation to what the digital age is key, and we can talk about it, but they still don't get it. So we have the doors open all the time and encourage them to visit here.
I think you hit on a really great point of this idea of non-traditional, non-conventional education, because I feel like there are some students who are in high school that right off the bat, they know what their interests are, they know what their passions are. Some of them might not know. But you always hear those stories of the bad kids who don't behave in class or who fall asleep all the time. And sometimes it's just because they're bored, they're not interested in what they're learning. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think if some students really know what they love doing and are focused or hyper focused on that area, they should be given the opportunity to then pursue that. And I think some high schools are really trying to develop those tracks for those specific likes and dislikes earlier on for students so that they do a lot better throughout their high school. But I think and maybe this is going to be unpopular, but I had this conversation with a gentleman I met on LinkedIn, where he was the same way. When he was in high school, he didn't like high school, he was bad at it. And it's because he was already hyper focused on um, a skill that he learned through generations through his family. And he was really good at that. And that's what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. I hated high school. I didn't like it at all. And then I kind of got pressured into going to college because that was the idea of what success looked like. And I almost failed miserably out of college too, and then I had my daughter and had to get my act kind of together. But I feel like if there's a way to kind of provide that option of unconventional learning for some of these students, we'd get a lot more uh, candidates lined up for engineering and manufacturing. So I think that's an interesting point that you brought up. And why not? Let's try it out. We have the skills shortage, and we really need people in these positions sooner than later because, as you mentioned, the grave wave is hitting us, and we're going to be in a bad situation if we don't start filling up these opportunities available. Um, in terms of your local community, you're working with robotics, and I know that you work with your daughter as well too. She's at Ready Robotics, and I love that
Yes.
you guys are connected on that level. Um, and the first thing that comes to my mind all the time when I think robotics is FIRST Robotics and some of the things that they're doing with local high schools. Do you do community activities like that where you're sponsoring other organizations like FIRST Robotics to help make the connections to what you're doing at eKAMI to real life situations like FIRST Robotics and getting kids involved that way, or any other activities with your community?
Yes, so we're mostly involved at this point with the high schools and getting into the grade schools. We have a lean staff here, but we encourage all of the community schools to plan a field trip to eKAMI. This is very exciting, and I think it's important to open the doors at as young of age as possible. This is cool. I mean, this is fits with this generation, whether it's the CNC machining or the AMRs or the AGVs or the collaborative robots. There's something here for everybody. We also do Teach Master Cam here. So we have 3D printers, the CMMs. So there's a lot of areas that would appeal to a very broad sector. And again, I think the key is that they need to see it, touch it, feel it for themselves and understand what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And COVID's not helping with that face-to-face interaction. A lot of things are getting canceled or postponed, so it's hard for us to get in front of people in person. Are there any virtual opportunities that you are like trying to put in your business strategy to help work around some of the restrictions that COVID has opened up to
We
all of us?
haven't we haven't gone there yet. And hopefully COVID passes, pretty soon so everybody can get back to normal. Everybody here is vaccinated, and, we've had some uh, small challenges, but there was a while when we didn't have visitors. But we typically, we've had visitors from all over the globe come to Paintsville to try to figure out what it is we're doing here. So yeah.
That's really cool. And that right there shows the importance of manufacturing and why we need to teach these skills of modern day manufacturing, because like you said, it's bringing people on a global level to a small town they may have never even heard of or never would have heard of if eKAMI wasn't there. So it shows uh, the waterfall effect that manufacturing can have on creating a thriving economically stable community. And I think that's important for everyone to know and understand, because back in the day, the United States was a manufacturing powerhouse, and then that started to not exist anymore, and now we're trying to build ourselves up again. And I think eKAMI is doing a wonderful job trying to build us up again. In your opinion, because I think a lot of manufacturers are struggling with trying to gain the attention of the younger generations, recruit them into their facilities, and then retain them as well. In your opinion, what sort of tips or advice could you provide manufacturers when it comes to getting the attention of the next generation workforce and making them look, attractive in terms of a career choice where they could have a thriving career for the rest of their life?
Yes, I think that the younger generation is interested in automation and robotics. I mean, it's uber cool, and there's just it's like a magnet. Like I said, I mean, you can see it in their eyes when they walk in the door and they see all this cool stuff that they've never seen before. And so, that's great, because I think manufacturing, the manufacturing facilities are planning to automate and introduce robotics. And so I think this younger generation would like to be the generation to deploy that technology. And yeah.
I think it's a good time too to let people know who might still be a little hesitant about automation and robotics, because there is that like misconception going around that robotics is going to take everyone's jobs away and there's not going to be space. And that's just not true. I think in terms of the manual work that's repetitive and laborious, it can help because it is actually freeing up more personnel to do other high technical opportunities. So I want to make that point because I feel like a lot of people have seen the sci-fi movies and then they get a little kind of creeped out by robots working on the floor with them. But in reality, it helps with some of those laborious, repetitive jobs, and it opens up to other opportunities. So even with the stuff that Ready Robotics is doing, Allie showed me one of the applications that they worked on, and it's like a drag and drop application. And it was really easy for me, who's just a technical writer, to figure it out. And that's
Yes,
basically what the younger generation does. They're on their iPhones all day or their Androids, dragging and dropping stuff. And it's
it's a
really quick
fit.
to pick up. Yeah. So,
It
um,
really is.
but Kathy, I wanted to thank you again for joining us on Mavens of Manufacturing. But before I let you go, one of my final questions that I have for you, in terms of where the sector is going and all of the things that you're doing, what is one thing that might keep you up at night that you're trying to figure out, or a challenge that weighs heavy on your mind?
Good question. I think probably, the purpose of eKAMI is to ultimately attract manufacturers to Eastern Kentucky. And so that's what I want to happen. We have businesses from all over coming to Painesville to recruit, but ultimately, which is great, we are planting seeds out in all these communities, and our people are training other people. But ultimately, we need those jobs, some of those jobs, to be here in Eastern Kentucky to replace the thousands of jobs that have been lost permanently from the decline in the mining industry. So, I would like to encourage any of your listeners who are in need of a uber skilled workforce, people who aren't afraid of hard work, to take a look at Eastern Kentucky for setting up shop.
I think that's a great point, because it's an example too of, a community that thrived in one niche area, you know, the way that the world changed and some of those skills went overseas to other areas of the world. One community that comes to mind is Buffalo, New York. They were really into to steel milling,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that kind of fell way short. So it's great to see you be proactive and so passionate about what you're doing, because it does demonstrate to the rest of us that, you know, with the right people, the right skill sets, the right passion and grit, we can start building up the manufacturing sector again, even in small towns that people might not have heard of before. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you coming on to Mavens. And if anyone wants to find out more information about eKAMI or how they can get involved with what you're doing, where should we direct them to?
We're on LinkedIn. eKAMI has a page on LinkedIn, and I have a page there too. So either of those, yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Kathy. I really appreciate your time. For all of those who are watching, be sure to reach out to Kathy to learn more about eKAMI. And if you have any suggestions or want to take a facility tour, she has been well receptive of people coming by and dropping by. I know I've seen a lot of pictures, and I'm hoping to make it out this year. Kentucky is a beautiful state. You have wonderful distilleries out there as well too that I wouldn't mind taking a look at. So be sure to reach out to her, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing.
Thank you. Thanks, Megan.
Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. Subscribe for more and make sure to tune in next time.